What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Opendoor. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So there is a lot of big things coming out this week that could really move Opendoor and the broader market a lot higher. Of course, Opendoor didn't do that great this last week, even alone on Friday going down 6.3%. For those of you that were kind of wishing for cheaper prices, that was maybe a blessing in disguise, but nonetheless, a lot of big data coming out this week. So starting off on Monday, we have durable goods, as well as Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index. Tuesday, we have ADP, home price index, and also consumer confidence, all of which have shown that they can really move the market. For the home price index, I'm not too worried about that because a lot of the data that's been coming out has been on point, but still that might reaffirm just people's mentality of Opendoor, despite us getting a lot of good data, hasn't really benefited Opendoor all that much. Maybe the market's still kind of subtly wanting negative data to justify a rate cut. And then speaking of rate cut, Wednesday we do have the Fed interest rate decision. So this is what I find rather comical because I'm pretty sure the writing's been on the wall that we're not going to get a cut. But what JPM and also Bank of America said on Friday kind of spooked some of the market because at the time when they did disclose that people shouldn't expect a cut for this meeting right here, that kind of caused a little bit of a sell-off, which was very, very odd. But still, nonetheless, I don't feel that there will be a cut. And what will move the market is Powell and whether he kind of alludes to a March cut and how he's interpreting all the recent data, which largely has been positive. So we'll have to wait and see for that. On Thursday, we do have the initial jobless claims as well as some manufacturing data. So that could again really move the market. And Friday, we have PPI. But the big stuff for this week will be companies unveiling their earnings. We have a lot of massive companies. So what they give for future guidance and so forth, and how their key metrics, top and bottom lines, came in, that could really show the strength of the economy, because recently we did have good data on Friday, so such as GDP. And yeah, I think overall this will again reaffirm the broader market's mentality that we will be we're good for the most part. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. One thing that might plague the market in the second half of the week, even though it's been kind of known for a while, but we might be getting another shutdown as of January the 31st. So that's something that a lot of people generally don't want. A lot of Fed speakers said that if we go through another lengthy shutdown, it could be detrimental to GDP and so forth. So again, that's something just to kind of keep in mind. But specific to Opendoor, there really isn't anything planned for this upcoming week. So no press releases, no SEC filings. I did see a post which was rather interesting. I thought initially it was just kind of fabricated and it was just a pump and dump type of post. But you did have Urban Stocks post saying that I guess Opendoor is trading at a 95.7% discount, and that was posted by Yahoo Finance, which, as it says right here, according to the most followed narrative, Opendoor has a implied fair value of $150, far above the recent $642 close, which puts a lot of tension on the assumptions behind the gap. So very interesting. So a 95.7% discount. I know a lot of people always like to look at Morningstar. Right now, they do have the fair value for Opendoor being $1.52. So definitely polar opposite. I'll save you some time in this actual article. There's not really much insight to really signal where they're getting that evaluation from. But still, do you think that Opendoor is worth $150? Or do you believe Eric, where I think initially he was saying 80 something, and then he kind of bumped it up randomly to 500. I don't know what he's on, but what's your kind of general thoughts on that? But specific to this week, there really isn't anything planned for Opendoor. Aside from that, getting right to shorts. So going into this week, 14.2% at the free float is being shorted, works out to be 111.09 million shares overall being shorted. Still sees some signs of naked shorting, so there is more shares being shorted than on loan, and that shouldn't happen. So definitely a lot of sketchiness is happening behind the scenes. DTC being at 1.23 days does signal that shorts are relatively overextended as well. Looking at the options from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around 650 to 7. So good amount of optimism is there. Bears are kind of anticipating for it to be between that 550 and 6. So this week clearly is a little bit more oriented towards the upside than down, but still I think there is a lot of abnormal buying that was occurring on Friday. So big money was kind of buying the dip. Of course, a lot of the largest ones were sells right here. So I think there was some rebalancing. A lot of that could be stemming from as well the yen going up, spiking up in against the American dollar. And historically, that does typically cause hedge funds to liquidate and really get out of speculative stocks. A lot of these are hold numbers, so 200,000. So potentially hedge funds might have attributed to Opendoor's red day on Friday on a side note. But a couple key levels to watch for with it closing on Friday at 601. It is trading between this S2 and this S3. So in comparison to a lot of other growth stocks, Opendoor is lagging like crazy. So 567 is going to be that strong support. 607, 631, and 671 is going to be the next strong targets. So kind of just watch for those if you're dollar cost averaging or whatever else. Aside from that, getting right to it on the actual chart itself, I'd like to say that things are looking pretty good, but it is unfortunately moving away from that 10-day moving average, and generally that is a very big deal for momentum plays, as is that blue line right here, so the 50-day moving average. So early on in the week, hopefully because of the data, we do have a retest of those points, and if able to get above that, then you could see a very nice push higher, but it really does need to get above those early on in the week. If not, you will be seeing some consolidation. One thing to just watch for is going to be that 563, so that's kind of the low from the fib levels as I just mentioned. So last time it did bounce off of that and had a pretty nice run. Hopefully that does occur again. So just watch for that to orient a lot of your buys or whatever else. If that does fail to hold, then this is where you could see a test of that 200-day moving average. Might not happen exactly this week, but potentially as well just over the next several weeks. That is how that could play out. But like I said, a lot of good opportunity this week to really move higher. So let me know your thoughts on Opendoor. Are you buying? Are you selling? What are you generally doing? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.